chimney fire in Ishpeming.
Lava flowing dangerously close to Hawaii homes. Hi, I'm Amr Mansour.
And I'm Samantha Ruff, and this is your Public Eye News. A formerly known Alger County Sheriff's deputy who was convicted of having a firearm while under the influence is now trying to appeal. Rebecca Wilder was sentenced to serve 60 days in jail and an additional 9 months probation, at which she would be required to stay away from alcohol and firearms. She claims her reason for having the firearm was to move it to a safer location due to her intoxicated partner becoming angry, and Wilder was concerned he would find it and potentially use it. Wilder believes she was violated of her constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Her appeal has been denied because her right was not violated, as it couldn't be proven she was in actual danger. Iron River and Marquette police are in the process of searching for 2 men who disappeared on the same day. Christopher Carl Reagan, 53, and Todd Michael Trudeau, 50, were last heard from on October 14th. Police have described Trudeau as a white male, 5 foot 9 inches tall and 215 pounds with brown hair and green eyes. If anyone has any information regarding the whereabouts of these 2 men, you are being asked to contact one of the respective police departments. New information has been released regarding a chimney fire at Robbins Flooring Mill last night in Ishpeming. It was said that flames were coming from the chimney located in the back of the complex and that no injuries were reported. The fire department now says that there was no fire coming from the chimney or from surrounding structures. After being on the scene for over 40 minutes, the fire department determined there was no threat.
For the next few days, we'll be talking about issues related to the upcoming election. Today's segment features Aaron Brown talking about mining and political influence.
Hello and welcome to Poli-Sci on the Fly. I'm your host, Aaron Brown, and today we have a special guest by the name of Professor Tom Baldini. Thank you, Tom, for coming. Today we'll be discussing mining regulations and political influence. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I would like to ask, how are mines like Eagle Mines permitted?
Eagle Mine, first of all, it's the state legislature. In a place like Michigan with a long history of mining, there's a lot of legislation, but it's the state legislature, the House and the Senate, that pass legislation authorizing mining, whether it's underground or open pit, and saying you can do this with all the other regulations. And the governor signs the legislation. So we have a long history in Michigan. So it's the legislature, but there's much more to it than that.
Perfect. Thank you. How do politicians influence mining regulation?
Well, once the legislation gets passed, they put in words like it's got to be safe, environmentally sound. But what does that mean? So it goes to the regulatory agencies. And remember now, we elect a governor, and the governor then appoints the people, the individuals who head up the Department of Natural Resources or the DEQ or Health, all those other departments. And they then become responsible for really defining those terms unless the courts have been involved. And the most recently, a lot of the legislation did end up in court, and the courts said, no, the legislation's fine, or we have to reauthorize it, or things of that nature. So politicians have a lot to say about the implementation, especially through the governor's office, and especially the legislators, if they are the same party as the governor. Obviously, we'll have chats with the governor about that.
Perfect, thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add for our viewers?
Well, if people are interested, they can go to the websites, Michigan Government, and go to the Department of DEQ, Environmental Quality, or the Department of Natural Resources to really look up the regulations and the specifics. And you get into some federal regulations, especially if it's clean air and if it gets into the Great Lakes.
Thank you, Tom. Well, that's all the time we have today. This has been Poli-Sci on the Fly. I'm your host, Aaron Brown. Don't forget to vote November 4th on Tuesday. Thank you.
Residents of Detroit will be patrolling the neighborhoods this 3-day Halloween weekend in an effort to stop local arsons. The Angels Night Volunteer Group has been acting in response to Devil's Night, which is the night before Halloween. In 1984, Detroit had over 800 fires on Devil's Night, but last year only 95 fires were reported. Mayor Mike Dugan will even be helping the group patrol for all 3 nights. Authorities in western Wisconsin didn't have to work too hard to identify a suspect involved in a burglary. The 19-year-old suspect is reported to have forgotten his cell phone at the scene of the crime. Authorities say that the teen had taken a selfie while robbing the Wazi Sports Center in Wisconsin. Police say that the teenager is also accused of trying to use a fraudulent check at the credit union in Black River Falls. And after the break, we'll be back with your national and international news. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Allison Janney, and this is Dutch, Sippy, and Addie. These are the 3 dogs that I've adopted, and they all bring so much love and happiness to my life. Animal shelters across the country are filled with beautiful pets that are just waiting for loving homes. Shelter Me tells uplifting stories about these shelter pets and the people who help them.
Thursday evening at 8, here on Public TV 13.
And welcome back. The government in Maine says the state is teaming up with health officials to seek legal authority for the enforcement of the quarantine of a nurse who's treating Ebola patients in Africa. Paul LePage said that the state police is watching over the Fort Kent home where the nurse is under voluntary quarantine. The nurse said so far she's had no contact with anyone and will continue to have no contact with anyone today. After that, though, she says she doesn't plan to cooperate. One of her lawyers says he's still trying to come to an agreement with the state. Investigators are trying to figure out what went wrong after an unmanned rocket on its way to the International Space Station exploded last night just after liftoff. Craig Boswell is at the NASA launch site in Wallops Island, Virginia, with the latest on the investigation.
Oh God! Hold on, it's gonna be loud!
Investigators will begin collecting debris the day after Orbital Science's unmanned rocket exploded in the sky over the Virginia coastline. No one was killed or injured in the explosion, but more than 5,000 pounds of supplies for the International Space Station were destroyed.
Something went wrong, and we will find out what that is.
This was to be the 4th of the 8 launches included in Orbital Science's $1.9 billion contract with NASA. The agency has used private contractors to supply the International Space Station since it retired the space shuttle in 2011. Critics question whether the engines, which were left over from the 60s Soviet space program, played a role in the crash, but experts say the engines had been refurbished.
They're virtually new engines. The design is old, but it's a very good design.
Residents along the Virginia coast are being told to stay away from the debris because it might be hazardous.
If you find anything that washes ashore in the local area, contact the local authorities and definitely do not touch it.
Russia was able to successfully launch its own rocket this morning, so the International Space Station will still be getting some supplies. Craig Boswell, CBS News, Wallops Island, Virginia.
At least 10 people are dead and more than 250 people are missing after a mudslide buried houses at a tea plantation in Colombo. The mudslides were triggered by monsoon rains. Sri Lanka's military has deployed troops to aid in rescue operations. Videos show mounds of earth covering homes and water projecting from hills. Most of Sri Lanka has experienced the heavy monsoon rain for the past few days. Lava flow from volcanoes is moving dangerously close to homes in a community on Hawaii's Big Island this morning. CBS's news correspondent Wendy Gillette reports from New York on how residents are handling the unusual crisis.
Smoking molten lava from the Kilauea volcano is now moving onto residential land for the first time since the flow began in June. Residents have been warily watching its path for weeks. Now the lava is oozing perilously close to a main road and threatens 50 structures in Pahoa Village.
Once she crosses the road, I know it's going to be mayhem. I know it's going to be mayhem, way worse.
Scientists said Tuesday the flow was advancing by 17 yards an hour. The lava burned down an empty shed and was slowly moving toward nearby homes. Hundreds have been advised to evacuate.
Mixed emotions will come out in the community as this continues to unfold because it is a life-changing event for many of the residents.
The lava usually flows toward the ocean, but this time it changed direction, and there's no way to divert its path.
It's such an incredible event. You know, it's so emotional. And one lady said, it's like a death.
Some residents say they intend to watch the lava destroy their homes to give themselves closure. Wendy Gillette for CBS News.
And after the break, we'll have your weather and sports. Stay tuned.
Join us this week for the season premiere of High School Bowl. In our first game, the St. Ignace Saints make a long road trip to take on the Escanaba Eskimos. I'm Jim Koski, host of High School Bowl, and in our second game, the L'Anse Purple Hornets take on perhaps the only high school in Upper Michigan named after a car. No, seriously, the Kingsford Flippers. It's all coming up Saturday night at 8 on High School Bowl.
And welcome back to Public Eye News. I am Floyd Smith here with your local weather. As you can see behind me in the Academic Mall, it is cloudy and it is windy, so you might want to grab a jacket. Let's take a look at the current conditions. Currently, it is cloudy with a temperature of 43 degrees and winds are going north-northwest at 16 miles per hour. The barometric pressure is 29.97 inches and steady. Tonight, it is mostly cloudy with temperature at 36 degrees and winds are going west at 9 miles per hour. Tomorrow it is rainy and there's a 70% chance of rain, so make sure you grab an umbrella. There's a high of 43 with winds going west at 7 miles per hour. Let's take a look at the UP. 41 degrees and cloudy in Sault Ste. Marie, 44 degrees and cloudy in Manistique, 46 and cloudy in Escanaba, 46 and cloudy in Menominee, 43 and cloudy in Iron Mountain, 39 and cloudy in Ironwood, 41 and cloudy in Houghton, and back here in Marquette, it is 44 degrees and cloudy. Let's take a look ahead. Friday is a high of 35 with a low of 29 and snow showers. Saturday, there's a high of 37, a low of 27 and partly cloudy. And Sunday, there's a high of 43, a low of 34, and mostly sunny. So it's getting really windy around here. How's it looking in the Windy City?
Things are starting to perk up. The NBA regular season started last night for a few teams, but most will have their inaugural game tonight. One of the most excited fan bases belongs to the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls acquired All-Star Pau Gasol during the offseason and anxiously await the return of former MVP Derrick Rose, who has missed almost all of the past 2 seasons due to injuries. Rose looked like his old self during the 2014 FIBA World Cup this summer and is expected to be back in full force. The Bulls will start their season on the road at Madison Square Garden against the New York Knicks tonight at 8 o'clock. In front of a home crowd of over 40,000 fans in Kansas City, the Kansas City Royals forced a Game 7 with a dominating 10-0 victory last night over the San Francisco Giants. One of the biggest contributors to the win was starting pitcher Yordano Ventura, who allowed just 3 hits and no runs through 7 innings. The Royals knocked out the Giants' starting pitcher Jake Peavy in the 2nd inning after he allowed 5 earned runs off 6 hits and a walk. The chance of winning the World Series is leaning in favor of the Royals, seeing as the home team has won each of the last 9 times the World Series has gone to a Game 7. The conclusion of the 2014 MLB season begins at Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City tonight at 8:07. The Detroit Lions All-Star wide receiver Calvin Megatron Johnson said in a statement yesterday that he definitely expects to play following their Week 9 bye. Johnson has missed 3 games this year due to a high ankle sprain. This is the first time in Megatron's career that he has missed 3 games in a season. The Lions are 6-2 so far under new head coach Jim Caldwell. After the week off, the division-leading Lions will face the Miami Dolphins at Ford Field in Detroit. It's a long season for these football players. It's nice for them to have a bye week to kind of just sit back, relax, and
maybe even get in a hot tub or 2.
Yeah.
Speaking of them hot tubs, police in Spring Hill, Tennessee have charged 27-year-old Matthew Crebaum with being a little too neighborly. The man was found uninvited in his neighbor's hot tub after being completely naked. He was busted on charges of criminal trespassing and indecent exposure.
Not necessarily how you want to come home.
No, of course not. And at least he had the common courtesy to leave his clothes, just there for him.
That's all the time we're going to have for you here at Public Eye News. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Nice job, guys.
Honestly, can you?
The preceding program was produced in studios located in the Edgar L. Hardin Learning Resources Center by WNMU-TV, Northern Michigan University Public Television.